And 3, 2, 1. Hello and welcome to an interesting interview with one of REDX's top prospectors. His name is Josh Roy. He's from Colorado Springs, and I'm going to be introducing you to his methods, his mindset, and how he generates results with specific lead types he generates and procures from REDX. And so, Josh, thank you for taking your time today to get on the phone and go over, all the things a lot of agents out there struggle with. And you've put together your mixture, your cocktail, your special ingredients to make yourself very successful. And so I just want to say thank you for joining us and jumping on this call.
Yeah, you bet. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Thank you. So, before we jump into the actual meat and potatoes, I think it's important for everyone to kind of get a little overview of first what they're going to experience today on the call, as well as a little bit about you so they understand why it's important for them to listen to because of what you've learned and what you've created from what you've learned. And so we're going to spend a couple of minutes just kind of going over some general information about how long you've been in the business and what you're generating as far as the numbers and metrics so people who are listening can say, okay, that aligns with what I want to learn and what I hear. And then we're going to jump into one of the things we found. All our top prospectors, they have a time blocking and a lead stacking organization to their day that drives their performance based on metrics and numbers, and they follow a pretty regular routine. And so I'd like to go into that with you as well. And then also, as we move past that, there's really two other sections that we're going to cover after we go into that is really the hero's journey, as we call it. Is every real estate agent enters real estate, most of them from the same place in space, and not everyone wakes up one morning, they're amazing. And so they go through trials, tribulations, decisions, heartache. And so I'm sure you've got some stories and some insight to share with us on what you've done and what you've chosen to hurdle over those things, and so others listening can do the same thing. And then finally, we're going to talk about your actual execution and approaches you use to turn everything that you've learned into the results you enjoy today. So let's get into it. You ready?
Yeah, let's do it.
Thank you. All right. So tell us a little bit about yourself. I know you're in Colorado Springs, and how long have you been in the business?
I'm in Colorado Springs. I've been doing selling real estate for 11 years.
11 years, wow. You've seen the switch from a couple of different market cycles actually then.
Yeah, I got into the business, when it was actually hot like it is now. And then, I went through the downturn when the market crashed. And, so I've seen it, go up, go down, and we're back up, so.
Yeah, so tell me what's different about now versus then, or even a better question is how did you get through the trough? What skills, what things did you need to know and learn that are now supporting you today?
So when I got into the business, I actually was pretty tough, I think, just because everyone had the real estate license, right? Everybody could sell a house. And so as a new agent, I thought, it was pretty competitive. So still had to learn quite a bit. I took a lot of classes, and then, as the market turned, I think those classes and some of the things I put in place helped because actually through the downturn, you had a lot of how I feel, the lazy agents were leaving the business, and the agent counts on real estate boards were going down. So it actually benefited a realtor, like myself and other realtors that, were out there, plugging away, working hard. When the competition went down. So during the downturn, I felt like we did pretty good. Obviously it was a little, more difficult, but, we were able to put some systems in place. And, REDX, I felt like was a big part of it just to help us, stay in front of, prospective sellers and get in front of them and list their house. During the downturn, there were a lot of short sales that, we were able to, list and help out. We just had to change some systems, and then we kind of got through it, and then now here we are. So
fantastic. So it sounds like what I took away from what you said is it took a toughness, and also you also said not the lazy agent. So I imagine toughness and working hard kind of go one with another. And so where you are today, I guess it didn't always seem like what you have today would be the things you're working on today. And so do you have a favorite lead type? I mean, you know, a lot of agents kind of pick one over another, and I think it's both tied to their personality and their skills, and they're also their determination. And so what I'd like to do right now is help paint a picture for those who listen to this and learn from this, you know, your favorite lead type, and then kind of describe the qualities and characteristics that this particular lead type is for.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I'm not too picky as far as I get on a lead. I mean, we do, you know, hopefully I'm answering this right, but as far as leads, I mean, yeah, we do for sell by owners. We get buyer leads from different sources. I have a few agents.
I can make the question a little bit clearer then. So there's from like lead types, I guess you would say expired, for sale by owners, pre-foreclosures, and so kind of out of the general mix, you know, which of those would you say is your favorite or helps produce the most for you most often?
Yeah, so my favorite is for sale by owners. Yeah, I enjoy those the most out of those three sources you just mentioned. And you know, I've been working for sale by owners since I started. You know, my first brokerage when I got my license, you know, just being a young guy, the guy threw me a list of for sale by owners, and I didn't really know what I was doing. He just said call them, but you know, over time, you know, I think we perfected it, and yeah, so I enjoy the for sale by owners.
That's fantastic. Yeah, then I guess we'll spend some time really, like I said before, we're going to talk about your results with for sale by owners, and then we're going to go into kind of how you organize your day. Then I'd love to jump into the methodologies that you use and, like, as you've said, perfected. And so over the course of a year, I would say, how many for sale by owners would you say on average you do?
Yeah, I would say 50 to 60.
That's and would you say what percentage of your business does that comprise?
Yeah, as far as percentage, I mean, it's probably 35% or so, right there.
Okay. So you're doing probably close to 180 deals a year?
Yeah.
Okay. And so in Colorado, prices are pretty good there from what I hear. And so that's a pretty healthy business. Is it just you running that, or do you have like a team of people, or I mean, how do you have your business organized to handle that volume?
Yeah, so we have a team. I've got 2 buyer agents, and we have an assistant and a transaction coordinator. And that's how we keep it rolling.
And I imagine you're the primary prospector, right? You're the one who's getting on the phone, sitting on the bicycle, turning those gears, and generating things.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I mean, I still do. Yeah, I mean, you know, I know a lot of agents over time, they kind of start, you know, maybe training their other agents to do what they were doing, but I continue to do that. And I mean, the buyer agents, they enjoy working with the buyers, and I enjoy, you know, I call it hunting.
Well, Colorado's a great place to go hunting, from what I hear.
Yeah.
for sale by owners. And so
right.
let's talk about your annual goals, because I bet there was a time where I guess just getting a deal was better than nothing. And in the 10 years that you've been in the business, I think you've matured in your thought process and your actual business processes. And so do you have annual goals, and how do you set them?
Yeah, every year we do. Yeah, we set goals for the year. I mean, it's usually in December during that, you know, maybe slower time right around Christmas break. That week, we usually get together as a team, and we kind of go through our numbers for, you know, that previous year. And then, you know, we'll jot down, okay, hey, this is what we want to do for this coming year. So yeah, that's how we kind of come up with all our goals. And then, you know, we try to obviously do better than, you know, the previous year, and you know, double our production.
Why is it? I would say it sounds like a silly question, but I think sometimes the silly question just needs to be asked, because not everybody might be thinking this. Is why is it important to set these annual goals?
Oh yeah, I mean I think it's really important. I mean, you know, you want to make sure you have something set and something that you can, you know, you're striving for. I mean, it's, you know, it's like in anything. If you don't set goals, you don't write them down. It's, you know, you're just kind of going out there on a whim. But if you have some goals, I think it pushes you, you know, to try to achieve it and work harder. And and make it.
Fantastic. Would you mind, you can share as much detail or as little detail as you want, but what are the things that you look at when you're trying to set your goals? And so if someone is listening to this in a day, a week, a month, a year, or whatever, how long from now, that they could be like, okay, I can do that too. And so what would be your recommendations as far as like looking at those particular things that you look at, and then how do you turn that into something that guides you throughout the year?
Yeah, sorry, can you repeat the question again? I'm sorry.
Mm-hmm. Sure, yeah. So, what are the things you look at in your business to set goals around? And how would you help someone who wants to set goals do that in a way that's effective and steers them towards their end result?
Yeah, I think, the things that we look at, I guess, inside our business is, yeah, I mean, okay, hey, what did we do this year as far as production? Okay, hey, did we hit that? Okay, we're doing well there. Do we need to get more listings? As far as customer service, are we hitting that as well? I mean, I think our big thing for us is, we want to make sure we're always prospecting, but then we're always prospecting, I guess, after the transaction as well, like meaning going back to that client, thanking them and staying in touch with them. So yeah, I mean, I think that's, hopefully that it kind of answers the question. I mean, I think you just want to, keep your goals in front of you and always evaluate, just, okay, hey, where do I need to be? What do I need to do to continue to,
how do you make them actionable? How do you break them down into something, it's a big, huge number at the beginning of the year, and then how does that turn into something that helps guide you on a daily basis?
Yeah, so yeah, I mean, I think every month you want to just see kind of where you're at, right? I mean, every quarter too, check things, see where you're headed, how you're doing. So I mean, as long as you're constantly just, following your numbers, looking at it, and then keeping them in front of you, I think, hopefully you can hit it. And I mean, I don't beat yourself up if you're, behind. It's, it's okay, but I think it just keeps you moving.
One last question on this area is, as you look at your goals and you're seeing that the daily, weekly, or monthly numbers aren't trending towards the annual number, what are some of the things that you look to correct, and how do you correct them? Or what things have you corrected and looked at to help you get back on track?
Yeah, I think we've corrected. I mean, just making sure. I mean, I think the big thing is staying productive. I mean, if there's times, where, you get busy, put deals under contract, it's easy to be like, all right, cool, we're doing good, we hit the numbers, but, then you forget maybe that next week you might be, maybe a little slower. The next month, things might slow up just a little bit. So I think like the big thing is, just keeping a structure, and, like for our team, we have, hours where, hey, we're prospecting, we're doing, we're trying to produce things like that,
Fantastic. I mean, it was almost as if you read my mind, because really the next place I'd like to go, and you and I talked about just a tad before we started, was what we've noticed: every successful prospector and every unsuccessful prospector has something in common. And it is the drive and desire for predictability and consistency. But the difference between those who have it and those who don't seems to be the ones who have a routine and schedule / time block in their calendar. And so to reach 180 transactions a year plus and to manage a team, it sounds like you have those, you have the framework of a prospecting routine in place. Is that aligns with your annual goals? Is that safe to say?
Oh, yeah. Yep.
Okay, fantastic. So we're going to kind of wrap up this section right now, and by really kind of just taking a little helicopter ride and looking down over your business, and so or your life, if you want to actually look at it that way too, because I bet your life is kind of like your business if you're a real estate professional. And let's take a look at your routine, and I'm not just talking about your prospecting routine, but we've also noticed there are elements and activities successful prospectors perform on a daily basis way prior to actually ever getting on the phone and hitting that time block where it's time to be productive. And so things like working out, getting up in the morning, doing kind of affirmations, role playing, practicing, kind of runs through the spectrum of things. And so there is no right answer. It's just your life. And so if you wouldn't mind, just kind of walk us through kind of what it's like to be in the day in the life of Josh Roy, and from the morning to when you start really hitting your prospecting sessions.
Yeah, you bet. Yeah, like you said, in the morning, usually we rise early. Usually, I like to get up and go to the gym and just get the day started right. I feel like if I get
What time's that at usually?
Yeah, usually I get up at 5:30, get to the gym at 6, and then usually, there from 6 to 6:45, 7-ish. I find my day goes a lot better if I just get up and get rocking and get a good workout in. And then,
any cool soundtracks or music or any motivational stuff you listen to in particular, or is it just kind of like silence and breathing and just focusing on, pushing out the calories?
Yeah. No, there's days I'll listen to some podcasts. I'll listen to a few of my favorites. Some days I'll be, listening to, some AC/DC or music, whatever, just to get rocking,
Yeah.
It kind of depends, but I just find if I start my day off like that, my day goes a lot better, and then I go into the office ready to rock and roll. So, usually I get a, hour workout in, and then, I've got 4 kids, and then, you take 2 of them to school, and then from there I'm at the office at 8:30, and then, I get ready, maybe answer a few emails, and then, we always, like you said, consistency, we prospect, from 9 to 11:30, meaning calling FSBOs, expireds, and then, buyer leads as well. So, our goal is to always, get in there and hammer. There are days when, you do have appointments in the morning, maybe from the other day from prospecting, but, you get in there and if you stay consistent with that, somebody can get pretty busy if they, call for a couple hours. And then from there, hopefully, prospecting goes well. Usually we have appointments set in the afternoon. And, we dip out to those. Usually we can get 2 appointments set. That's our goal, 2 a day with maybe a FSBO or expired. And then if we don't have, success in the morning, which is okay, we usually try to, get back to the office, late afternoon and, prospect.
What time is that at?
Usually, obviously we're kind of in and out, right? But, so like for, prospecting, I always tell people the best time to prospect is in the morning and then, like late afternoon into the evening. So usually 4:30, try to start hammering from 5 to, to 7 if we can, 6:30, at least another hour and a half because usually people are, off work at home and you can catch them then. Middle of the day, it's tough to catch some of them. You can, but it just, you find in the morning and night.
Your most effective time is going to be those 2 chunks, huh?
Yeah.
So I've got 2 questions you've flickered in my head, and so there's something we call the lead stack, and everybody who has a successful real estate prospecting practice, that's hard to say 3 times in a row, has a lead stack. And so it sounds like, and what we define a lead stack is the order you rank and start your leads in, and it tends to be usually based on some sort of priority or a difficulty level. And so could you describe to me how you came to, what is the order in your lead stack? So it sounds like you start with for sale by owners, and then you have something else, and something else. And so if you could walk us first through your lead stack, and then help us explain and understand why you've chosen to put those in that order.
Yeah, so the lead stack, I call for sale by owners. Back in the day there were a lot of them. Now, there's not as many. So, I know if I can get to those fairly quick, I can get appointments set because, they're going to get called by other realtors. And then I call expireds. And then, there are some buyers that, buyer calls I still call. And then, our goal too is to, towards the end of maybe the prospecting hour, last half hour is to circle back with some past clients and, after some closings, maybe 2 weeks after, we try to just call and just say, hey, how are things going? Hope you're enjoying the house, things like that. So, yeah, so that's a lead stack.
And so if I understand you correctly, and if I have said anything out of place, please add to it or help us understand a little bit more clearly, it sounds like you've got your lead stack organized by for sale by owners first, expireds second, and then you have your buyer follow-up calls, and then any sort of transactionally related, maybe it's a current deal or a pending, or and so you have this time from basically, I think you said 9 o'clock to 11, where it is is it fair to call it your connection time? You're trying to connect, and that is how you really equate your productive time.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, connection time, we call it that, or, dial for dollars, things like that,
And on a typical day, like you said, the marketplace changes, and so does the number of for sale by owners and expires. But on average, your lead stack represents kind of your book of business to call for the day. And how many calls are you making? And what is and I know you said your goal is 2 appointments a day, but is there a connection goal as well? I know some top prospectors, they have they know how many calls they're making, or they need to make within a range. They know how many connections or conversations, kind of the same thing. It's hard to necessarily define that entirely one way, calls/connections, and of course appointments. And so I guess we would call them your lead stack performance or KPIs. What do those numbers look like for you?
Yeah, we probably should do a better job on tracking just the calls, but yeah, I think, in the 2 hours we can get through, anywhere from 75 to 100 dials.
Great.
So yeah, we're trying to definitely connect, with all of them, but that's not going to happen. But,
right.
Yeah, so, I wish I knew that right offhand, but yeah, I think we just, we know if we can go through that 2.5 hours, we're going to connect with, at least 10 to 15 prospective sellers or buyers and be able to make appointments with them.
That's fantastic. Okay. Well, you've done a fantastic job, just want to say, fantastic job of helping us understand your day, why you do it, the order you do it in, and the results you get. I don't think I could ask for anything more or better. Before we move on to really the struggle, the story behind how you got to where you are, and really giving us some key insights into, let's say, the opportunity and the pain, because I don't think there's, it's kind of, what do they say in economics? There's no free lunches. And so, 10 years in the business, you've really kind of know how to make a sandwich when it comes to for sale by owners, I guess we could call it that. And so, let's take a journey back in time real quick here to a point where you found yourself, like you said, receiving this kind of, your introduction to for sale by owners was your broker at the time just kind of threw whatever was in front of you and said, start calling them, right? That seems to be like how you initially became acquainted with FSBOs, right?
Yeah, that's right.
And, how would you say your maturity with those, how did that come about? How did you go from, not really knowing what it was to the insights along the way to becoming a professional for sale by owner prospector?
Yeah, like I said, when I started real estate, I started in this little office. Back in the day, they did, real estate. You could take videotapes at certain offices, and so I found this office, and they said, "Yeah, come take the classes." I finished those out, so I was, geared up, fired up, and so I said, "All right, I'm ready to rock and roll, pass my test." And
yeah,
just being in a small office, I didn't know what to do next. I was like, "Great,
yeah.
I can go sell a house." And so I asked the broker there at the time, and he gave me a stack of, for sale by owners. He said, "Hey, just call them and, tell them you're a realtor." And that was pretty much it. It was pretty vague. And I was, I'm like, okay, that's cool. So, I called through them, and, actually my first day in real estate, I had a appointment with a four-saw by owner, and I had no idea what I was doing. You know, I came back to the broker and said, "Hey, I'm going to go meet this four-saw by owner. What do I do now?" And he gave me an MLS printout sheet where you could fill out and said, "Try to get them to sign this. If they don't, give them this video." I was like, "That sounds good. All right, cool." So I went to that appointment not knowing anything, and I gave them the video, and then that was you know, the last I saw of them. But you know, I think after that appointment and hitting a few and just kind of getting, you know, kind of beat up and kind of just, I mean, I was, you know, young and excited and just, all right, cool, I'm meeting these FSBOs. I finally discovered, okay, hey, there's got to be something. There's a trick to these things. You don't just show up and be like, great, you know, hey, you can be my realtor.
Yeah, let's look at that moment right there. I think that's a really important, crucial moment for everyone. It doesn't matter what lead they're actually using, but I think that transition from, I would say, what was the word? Irrational exuberance to, you know, earned confidence. And so how did you make that, like, what was that moment like?
Yeah, just, you know, as far as the moment of going from, hey, excitement to, oh man, this is going to be a little more difficult. Is that what you're saying? Sorry.
Yeah, and I could also say where someone's from in a place of feeling like it's dismal, and then it kind of works both ways. I think there's always an inflection point where people are like, man, I'm trying, I'm going, I'm doing, and I'm excited, or I'm kind of frustrated and burnt out. And I think they're kind of the same places as people either find like that next trick, that next step, that insight, that mentor, that guide, that video, that website, whatever it is, that training class. And then all of a sudden it was like they're turned on to like what's next, and that becomes the point where they go from being you know, an amateur to a professional, or on the path, I would say.
Yeah. Yeah, so I mean, just to kind of continue on that story, so for like 3 months I kept hammering FSBOs. I mean, I did have a few people that maybe felt sorry, hey, let's list with this guy. But yeah, I mean, I think the big thing was like I kept my attitude, you know, kept a positive attitude on things, right? I just kept thinking in my head, hey, I'm learning, I'm going on all these appointments. At that time there were tons of for-sale by owners, and you know, I kept getting, you know, beat up, but there were, you know, I kept learning. And then there was this class that came up in my brokerage, that actually taught me a lot. It was once a week for 6 weeks. And this guy, he would fly in from Arizona, and he taught, just some dialogue that just helped me out quite a bit.
Do you remember the name of the course by chance, or the name of the person?
Yeah, so it was a Floyd Wickman instructor. It was called Star Makers. And yeah, we took it every Friday. He would fly in. We took it. It was an all-dayer, and he hit every topic in real estate. But you know, at that time, I was going on a lot of for-sale by owners. So when he came up on that topic, I was ready for it. You know, because
you were in the front row.
Yeah, I was ready. I'm like, hey, give me that dialogue because I need to know what to say. And I can get to the house, but once I got to the house, I felt like I needed to know what to say, and you know, I just so that class really helped me out. And then after that, I just I plugged in some of the dialogue, and then I mean, it took me, I mean, I would say 6 months. I mean, if I would have took that class sooner, I think, you know, it would have been quicker as far as, you know, feeling confident and comfortable on FSBOs. But then, you know, once I took that, I just felt like things kind of just started clicking, and it's just
so if
started
they could
working.
take that 6 weeks and put it into 6 days, and you could have started on your first day, you think within a week you'd be where you wanted to be after 6 months?
Yeah, no, I mean, I feel like, I mean, I think, you know, I mean, I think it all just worked out, right? I think you know, stars aligned. You know, I had to go out and learn, hey, you know, learn people, learn you know, okay, the business, okay, learn that, hey, you know what, you don't just go out there and, you know, they want you to list, you know, you go out there and you got to connect. And then as I, you know, did that, I learned from that, but then I took the class and then was able to bring in some dialogue and some experience, you know, from another agent that had worked a whole bunch of them. And then it just all kind of panned together, and it just started working well.
You know, this is great information. I've got so many things I want to ask, but I'm sure we can only dive into just a couple of them. In that, you really addressed the kind of the learning curve of what it takes from a general standpoint, I guess every lead type has its own specificities, and we'll get into that in a little bit. And I was wondering what it took to really move through, and it sounds like you really just jumped into learning dialogue and rapport building and the general business practices. And so just a couple more questions in this section before we move on because we've really been talking about the pain and the struggle, but I think maybe we should talk a little bit more about the opportunity behind for sale by owners. And I would say you've chosen them because a very specific reason. It's not like there aren't other ways to generate business, and so you've made a very conscious decision. You just haven't stuck with one lead type for the last 10 years just because out of ignorance. It's because you've made some sort of observation and some decisions to say this is the best one for me. And so, help me understand why you chose for sale by owners over other lead types. What is the experience of them compared to others, and how does that help? And what has 30% of your business coming from them?
Yeah, I mean, I think I might just go back to day one when I started, when I got 4 sale by owners thrown in front of me, and I had to learn them. And, I had to learn, being, at the time in college and, in a new, in an area that I didn't know anybody, I think, those were the only way I could maybe go get business because all my friends were just in college. They couldn't buy houses or anything. But, so yeah, I think that plays a big part of it. And, I feel comfortable with, 4 sale by owners when I go there. And, to me, I feel like, in my mind, I'm going there and they need me, right? And, they need help, I know that, when the market gets hot, some of them can sell them by themselves, but if you still meet with a lot of them, they still need an agent and they, need a good agent. So I think, I think it just kind of started with day one. It's just, I learned 4 sale by owners, and that was kind of like, my favorite thing at the time, and it just kind of stayed with me. And, like you're saying, our lead sources or, our stack, we still work expireds and, others, but, I just feel like, 4 sale by owners is the one maybe I guess you can say mastered.
Yeah. Now, is for sale by owner the number one lead in your lead stack because you've had so much exposure and time with it, and then, as you said, you've reached a point of mastery with it? Or are there other dimensions about the lead type itself that has you enjoy it more, or not struggle with it as much as other types? Or is there something about you or your team or your personality that helps push for sale by owners to the top of the lead stack list?
Yeah, I think it just comes down
like
to
comparing them to. Sorry to interrupt, but comparing them to all your other options and choices. Like I said, there's for sale by owners, there's short sales, there's pre-foreclosures, there's expireds. You could be buying internet leads, you could be door knocking, you could be doing a whole lot of other things. And so when you look at all that stuff, why FSBOs? Again, is there something unique about them and you, or some other dimension that I just haven't thought about to ask you a question on?
I think I don't know if it's maybe, the thrill or just meeting new people. I think it's, personality. Maybe we just connect well with some of them. I enjoy meeting new people and finding out, hey, what are these people like? Where are they moving to? So, for sale by owners it's kind of a cool thing because you get to meet new people. But, too, you can spend a lot of money on other lead sources and, get buyer leads. But, as a new agent or somebody that's, just trying to get their business thriving and going, for sale by owner leads are by far the cheapest lead. To me, when I started, I couldn't afford, some of, the things I'm maybe doing now. So it was easy just to get that list and go rock and roll with it.
There's not like, is there a level of, is the difficulty of for sale by owners less than, let's say, expireds or other types? Do you feel like there's a certain resistance that you don't face with for sale by owners, or is there a, let's see here, Yeah, is the struggle greater or easier with for sale by owners than other lead types? And the
You know,
results that come from that struggle, I would say, because you're working expireds, you're working a couple of others, and so for like
right.
time and energy per dollar, you know, you're probably naturally choosing them because the amount of energy you put in and the output you get out is working for you.
Yeah, you know, I mean, for sale by owner leads, I mean, they're easy to get. I mean, but you just got to call them. I mean, they can be a tough lead to convert, right? But I mean, I think if you have the right dialogue and right mindset, you can you can have them, working with you there, and hopefully that first week, maybe second week. But yeah, I mean, I think it's just, I mean, to me, I feel like as far as the for sale by owner, I mean, if you're calling them, I mean, I feel like they're easy appointments to set. It's just gaining the connection and going for it.
So I'm going to be moving on to the next section because you really kind of opened the door for it. Is if you have the right dialogue and you have the right approach, that setting and getting them is kind of a two-part process that you've, as you said, perfected. And so, just one last question, if I'm from this section here, is what would you say the biggest misconception is about working for sale by owners? And so, agents who aren't working them, or people who have worked them but have given up on them. What would your advice or insight be to help rectify that misconception?
Yeah, I mean, I think some agents just think that, they're all mean and rude and they're going to hang up on you. But I think that a lot of times they'll listen to what you have to say if you approach them right. And, I think that's the biggest thing. I think that sometimes people are like, oh, I don't want to dial those because they hate agents and they don't want to hear from us. Which, it's probably, I mean, there are times you get hung up on, but there are a lot of other people out there that, will tell you about their house and listen to you and have you come over.
Yeah, from what I understand, working expireds is worth at least $100 and something thousand a year in GCI for you. Just kind of making up some numbers in my head based off of sales prices and the percentages. I mean, if you can get over that one fact, and even if you don't work anything else and you're a brand new agent, it sounds like within a month to 2 months, definitely 3, based on what you're telling me here, is you could be heading towards $100,000 a year business by just prospecting them, getting good at them, and I'm sure that there are agents out there who would say yes to that as well and agree with you on it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think my first year, I mainly did for sale by owners and made, like you said, close to 100K. It was under, I think it was like 80, but as a young new agent, I'm like, that was, I was excited and thrilled.
Well, let's take that bottled enthusiasm, both you have now and tapping into it from the past, and let's move on to the next section. So agents who are starting new with REDX, or starting with for sale by owners and prospecting in general, or agents who'd like to add to their existing business and can kind of conceptualize chunking out a little bit of time to add these into their day to increase their overall production numbers. Let's jump into your specific approaches and methodologies. As you said, you've perfected them, and it's about the approach and the way you talk to them that really matters. And so what I'd like to build towards as we get to the end of this section is to maybe do a little role play as well. So we'll go through some questions, and if you're comfortable with that, I can pretend to be a for sale by owner, and you can kind of run through your scripts, and maybe I'll throw some objections out at you.
Sure.
You can kind of disarm them like a bomb technician.
Yeah, sounds good.
Okay, great. So let's look here at just right off the top. Do you have any specific strategies or systems or approaches that you found more effective than others when working for sale by owners? Because as you said, you've done this for a while and you kind of honed in on one approach. And so walk me through that approach.
Yeah, our goal is to get to the house, right? So our first, I know there's tons of different dialogue out there, but obviously when we make the call, we try to find out about the house. We ask them questions, and then our goal is to set that appointment. So I guess like over the phone, I mean, I don't want to say we're doing a soft approach, but we're kind of just, letting them know that, hey, maybe we're a little bit different than other agents that are calling them up and, trying to get the listing right over the phone,
Yeah.
We try to get some information from them on the house. We try to get some information, obviously where they're moving to, how long they've lived there. And then, of course, we ask them, hey, well, you're selling this for sub by owner, can I ask you why? And it's, obviously, commission every time. So, so from there, we set the appointment, and get to the house. And then that's when we kind of turn up the heat, right? I mean, so that's when we feel like, hey, this is our opportunity to shine. Here we are, we're the agent you want. But we, when we get to the house, we, have them give us a tour of the home. We have our, I carry a notepad, obviously, my business card, but I thought I could bring is a notepad, and it's just basically my for sale by owner notepad that I use for every for sale by owner. Go through the house. Usually that takes 15 to 20 minutes, but that's the time you get to know the house, but you also get to know the owner. That's when you break the ice with them. And then you show them, hey, hey, you care, and, care about the house. You obviously point out some things, some nice features that maybe they upgraded. And it's, basically, it's your sell job, hey, this is, this guy or, this lady is seems like a nice guy. And then after the tour, what we do is I ask, hey, do you mind if I take a seat? Usually at the kitchen table or in the living room. Because my goal there is not to just list the house right then there. Obviously, if they're like, saying, hey, all the right things, we're going to go right into that. But usually, I find that, we'll go through everything. I'll re-ask a lot of the same questions I asked on the phone. And then, what our goal there is to set a second appointment to come back and list the house or go through, all the information, about the area, basically the market analysis. And then, what we can do to help. And then, so our goal is to usually get there the next day. And, so basically we do a two-shotter, that's what we call it. It just, first is to break the ice, have them get to know me, I get to know them, and then they, say, all right, this guy's putting in the time and effort. And then the next appointment usually is the time where we get it listed.
Gotcha. Okay. That's wonderful to hear.
And, on that second appointment too, it's like, I don't want to make people think, hey, we go on that second appointment and we get the listing every time. But sometimes we don't. But what we do is you follow up, right? I mean, if you don't follow up after that second appointment, because I've had people say, oh, we're not ready, Okay, well, when are you going to be ready? Okay, well, give us another week or so. Well, then I make a note, I call the end of that week or the beginning of next week. Hey, how's things go? Oh, still on the market. Okay, great, and then we roll it into trying to get back out there and meet them again, I mean, I know, it's a lot of calls, meeting with them, but, to me, I've always found that it's, it's worth it, right? You get a listing and, it's like in my mind, it's $5,000.
Yeah, that was the number I was trying to calculate in my head. So it sounds like you've got the call, which is primarily just to set the appointment, and some basic rapport building and objection handling. But then when you get there, that's when you do your kind of land and expand approach, which is you build rapport, you take in some information, you do your gathering in person, and then you set another appointment to come back with kind of the results and like your recommendation, if you would, and then the proposition to list.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. So thank you for walking through that for me and for everyone listening. And so I'd like to take the remaining time we have right now to jump into a little bit of the role play, a little bit of what it feels like to be you in your office on a day-to-day basis between the hours of 9 o'clock and 11, and specifically talking about your for sale by owners inside your lead stack. And so the for sale by owners that are in there, well, first, I'd like to know, because I may not have addressed this before, is it just the fresh FSBOs every single day? Or are there like different variations or gradations of for sale by owners inside your morning call campaign?
Yeah, it's both, fresh new FSBOs that have been on the market or in our REDX system for a couple of weeks, or we haven't been able to get a hold of them, so we just kind of go back through the list.
How far back do you go?
Yeah, I think we go back about 30 days. That's probably, about 30 days. I mean, we just go through them and then, we take good notes on, the system and the REDX if we get a hold of them. And, obviously we can't set the appointment. We make a note, kind of get as much information as we can, and then we kind of roll back through them.
That's fantastic. I wish we had a little bit more time to go into that, but I think we may unravel a little bit of that right now in this next part, which is you're in the hot seat, you're in the dialing session, and you're starting to dial your for sale by owners. And so can we do a mock call right now? Would you mind getting into that with me?
Yeah, sure, yeah. Hopefully,
that'd be.
Hopefully, I don't mess up here.
I'm putting you on the spot, and so it's understandable that you haven't done all the usual prep mind stuff that it takes to get in the zone. But don't worry about it. It's just kind of just to hear the flow as it comes. And so when you make that call, let's jump into the script and let's see what it sounds like. So whenever you're ready, I'll be your for sale by owner.
Sure. Okay. Yeah.
So let's do a little ring.
Yeah, ring, and whenever you say hello, I'll be ready to rock and roll.
Sure. Okay. Ring. Hello.
Hi, this is Josh Roy with Next Home Realtors. How are you?
Hey Josh, how you doing?
I'm great. Hey, I'm calling on that home you have for sale there on 123 Easy Street.
Yeah.
Yeah, is that home still available?
Yes it is.
Oh, great. Okay, and then I was just looking here. Our records show that it's a 3-bedroom, 2-bath. Is that right?
Last time I checked, yeah.
Okay, great. And then the square footage, it's showing it's 2,200 square. Is that fully finished or?
Yes it is.
Okay, cool. And then we saw a few pictures online, but it looks like you guys have done some nice upgrades. I mean, it looks like it's in pretty good shape. Is that right?
That's true, yeah. We just put some new things in there about 3-4 years ago, so I guess new to us. And yeah.
Awesome. And then if you guys sell this, where are you moving to?
Well, we're just maybe looking for an apartment closer to the mountains.
Oh, nice. Cool. Get a little closer to those ski resorts.
Yep, that's what we like doing.
Awesome. And then I see the price right now that you're asking $225. Is it still $225 or has it changed or?
Nope, still $225.
Okay, cool. And then I noticed you're selling this for sale by owner. Is that right?
Yep. Just trying to, save a couple of bucks here and see if we can sell it ourselves.
Okay, cool. Yeah, just so you just want to save on that commission right now.
Yeah.
Nice. Okay. So let me ask you this: you're not opposed to working with a realtor as long as we can get you what you want?
Yeah, that sounds fine. Yeah, I mean, if you can bring a buyer and we can get what we want, then yeah, that sounds good.
Okay. No, awesome. Would it be okay? Could I come by and take a look at it this evening? I mean, we're going to be in that area around 4-ish, or if that's too early, we can be there at 5 if you're available. It'll only take us 15, 20 minutes to run through it.
Sure. 5 o'clock works.
Okay, great. Yeah, it won't take us too long. I'll plan on that, and we'll see you then. Okay.
Well, great. See you then.
Awesome. So yeah, I mean that's pretty much the gist of it. I mean, and then like we were saying, when we get there, we start turning on the heat.
Yeah, that seems like a pretty low, kind of a low level of frustration and friction call. And so, what kind of in that though? Because obviously, I'm just creating a scenario so you could go through that and we could hear it. And I'm sure I'm not like most for sale by owners out there because, I'm not selling my home and it's not actually a real call. And so in a real call, what are some of the common frustrations, objections, kind of experiences you have, and how do you handle them and still manage to get the appointment?
Yeah.
Walk us
So look,
through some of those scenarios that you experienced.
yeah. So I mean, I think look, a lot of these for sale by owners they get calls from other realtors. I mean, that maybe aren't experienced, or they just. I mean, to me, I've some of the things I've heard from past my clients on way people are calling. They're getting hounded. I mean, they're getting like told. I mean, that they're pretty much stupid for selling it for sale by owner, right? So a lot of times when you're calling these, their attitude is like, oh god, another realtor. But if you break the ice and you just to me, I feel like you ask them the right questions, and you just you're kind of going through it, and you're just you're asking them about their house, and then you kind of throw in some of those, I guess, those little darts like, hey, when you're selling, or if you sell, where you move in. Great, and then hey, you're not opposed to working with a realtor as long as you get what you want. And they're like, yeah, if we can get what we need out of it.
Are those the two qualification questions you ask?
Yeah, because I mean, the big thing is if you call a for sale by owner and you ask, hey, if you sell, where you move into, and then the other question I forgot to ask, how soon you need to be there. But if they're just saying, hey, yeah, we're just hoping we can get this price. And it's, you can just feel that they're just kind of maybe hoping they get that price and they're not serious about moving. And it's kind of one of those ones you kind of like, all right, maybe I should move on. I don't want to waste my time on this one. But if you get one that's like, hey, I'm military, I got to get out of here.
Right.
Here in the Springs, we got 4 bases. So, I mean, a lot of times they're like, hey, I got to be in North Carolina, this date. You want to get out to that house, I mean, it doesn't matter, I mean,
those people have a deadline.
Yeah, you want to be in front of them, get there. So, but yeah, I mean, the biggest objection is, commission, hey, do you have a buyer? If they ask, hey,
yeah, what do they
buyer?
typically say? What are kind of it kind of seems like, one of the dispositions or one of the purposes and objectives of this call that we just had was, one, to find out their qualifications as a client. And so are they ready, willing, and able to buy or sell? And so that will determine whether or not you, A, go out there and even go for the appointment, or B, I guess just pass on them. And then once I guess people might feel like you're digging into them a little bit. Does that ever happen where they feel like you're prying?
No, I mean, I've never, I never, I guess the thing is I've never had anyone, I think that I'm prying. I think it comes down to sometimes like, hey, do you have a buyer for the home? And I'll tell them, well, I haven't seen your house yet. I mean, but I work this area quite a bit. We have a lot of buyers that are shopping, but I never want to put in their mind that I have a buyer right for their house. I mean, I've messed up before where, you say, hey, yeah, I do have a buyer, or they think you're coming over with a buyer, and then your appointment's shot, So, I mean, I think that's the big thing is, I mean, hey, do you have a buyer, or, what's your commission, things like that. I mean, you do have some.
Let's see if we how bulleted we can get with the list of objections you have to handle. Not all at once, but in general on the course of setting this for sale by owner appointment, the way you do it. And so it sounds like, A, do you have a buyer? People ask that, and you have to come up with something to say. They'll ask something about commissions, or what are some of the other, roadblocks / questions / objections you get on those appointments?
Yeah. So yeah, do you have a buyer, commission? Hey, we're not ready to list our house yet. I mean, I would think those are probably the 3 big objections that for sale by owner has. I would probably say those were the 3.
Okay. And for the record book, just again, could you help us ninja through those? And so, like I say, kind of in a bulleted list, when dealing with someone who asks if you have a buyer, how do you handle that? When someone asks you about commission, what does that sound like and where in the conversation? And finally, the third one, walk through those if you could for us.
Yeah. So yeah, if they ask, hey, do you have a buyer for my home? I'd say, look, I haven't seen your house yet. I'd love to see it and walk through and might be able to match a buyer up with it. And then I tell them straight up, I'm like, hey, listen, we work this area quite a bit. We've, sold some homes in this area already. Can I come out and take a look at it? So I kind of just breeze through that buyer part, letting them know that hey, I haven't seen it. Same thing with commission, if, hey, what's your commission? Well, I haven't seen your house yet, but if we bring a buyer, usually it's a standard 3%, but let's take a look at it and maybe we can, match a buyer up with it, So I just kind of, let it go in one ear out the other, but just kind of like tell them, hey, I haven't seen the house. Let me get out to the house,
Right. Right.
So because all they're doing is they're just throwing you stuff and they're trying to throw you things that just steer you away. So if you just let it come and say, yeah, well, I haven't seen it. Let me come out and, see it, So they're just trying to get you off the phone, seeing how you do. That's the way I feel. It's like, oh, yeah, I don't want to work with a realtor. Okay, well, that's fine. Can I still see it?
Yeah.
Because a lot of times,
that's probably another one is I don't want to work with a realtor. How do you overcome that? I bet everyone has realtor horror stories, and not everyone, but you run into people who have realtor horror stories. And how do you, I would say, take the anxiety out of that for them?
Yeah, like I said, I think it's just they're throwing you curveballs, and you just got to, make sure you can, get out to the house because I think, they've all had maybe some experiences with realtors that unfortunately didn't go well, and so it makes it tough for good agents to get out there. But if you can get out there to the house, and you're a great agent, they're going to see, okay, hey, this person's different than the last person that we dealt with. So, I think it just kind of goes over, just staying kind of persistent on the phone, trying to get to that, the house. You're not going to get to the house every time, right? There are going to be people that you're just not going to be able to overcome, or, you're going to try everything you can. And then you're like, okay, well, let's hit the next one. Maybe come back to this one when they're having a better day.
That's actually a really great point. Some people are in the middle of drinking coffee, holding babies, driving in their car. You never know. And, I'm sure there's better ways and places, and the mind just to try again later is probably a tried and true prospecting method that you forget about. Try again later. Oh, is it that simple?
Yeah.
I think try later. I know this is not about me at all, but I know that there are times where I go to ask for something and I don't get a response, or I get a negative response, and I have learned to look at that as just try again later, and you never know. Someone a couple of months later will say, yes, I want to go do this or that, and so it's interesting how circumstances and context change people's answers and decisions. So
right, and attitude. And over the phone too. If you're not excited to call, they're gonna feel that, But if you're calling and you're fired up, people are gonna feel your energy and be like, all right, no.
What does that sound like? I'm gonna put you on the spot. What does that fired up energy sound like when you're calling for sale by owner? Because
it's just when you're if you're calling with one of those attitudes like, oh god, I gotta call these again. It's just you can feel it and hear it in your voice. But if you're like, all right, cool, let me start these and let me get some appointments so I can meet some people. People are gonna feel your the energy and like know that, hey, this guy seems pretty fired up.
Sounds like you need to be a little bit of like an opera singer with a little practice ahead of time to kind of get the energy flowing before you get on the phone. Otherwise,
we've all had days where we've been like, we call and we're like, oh, I don't have it today, and obviously,
are there things you do to kind of pull the cord on that, or rip cord, or starter? What's that called? There are things that you have learned how to do when you're just not feeling it, but all of a sudden you've got a way. You found a way.
Yeah. Sometimes it's turning on one of your favorite jams, kind of giving yourself a pump-up talk. Maybe just getting out of the office for like 15, 20 minutes, All right, let me just go decompress. Let me get my mind right. and come back and just kind of, I guess maybe taking a mulligan for the, the morning or something, and coming back in like, all right, now let's do this. My mind's right. Let's rock and roll,
Yeah. Are there any like mastermind groups or mentors? Do you have like any like positive energy people you call to kind of get a reset? Whether they know you're positive energy people, or whether they're designated as your rebound, your energy rebounders or not?
Yeah. No, I have a guy that I started with back in when I first started real estate. He'd been in the business for 10 years. We still communicate actually, sometimes daily, just because we bounce ideas off of each other. So there's times, I'm like, all right, let me call my buddy up and give me a little pump up talk, and I do the same for him, so,
that's great.
Yeah, I mean, I guess we're each other's mentors or each other's, punching bag when we need it, and be like, all right, dude, get your head right. Let's go.
Yeah. So, I guess, I think there was only one other one that, from the objections that we're going through is there's price objections or, commission objections, which is basically you kind of roll with and tell them, how can I'll tell you what it's going to be until I've seen what it is. Kind of the same thing with the buyer. And then, the last one was, I don't want to work with real estate agents. You seem like you just kind of move past that without actually flinching at all. And then, the last one, do you remember, what was the last one? I know there was a fourth one we discovered, which is, price, buyers, don't want to work with agents. And then, what's the last one?
Yeah, what was it? Because I think I mentioned 3. Was it, commission, you have a buyer, and I don't want to work with agents. And I'm not sure what the fourth was. I'm sure there's a fourth though.
Yeah, I'll go back. I'll listen to it and add some stuff in the notes then. And so, let's see, before wrapping up, because we're just about close to the end of this here. And so, we've really done a very thorough job. You really kind of rode the roller coaster ride, or I guess just the regular commuter train, depending on your perspective here, towards the end of this call. And, I would say you've got experience, you've got production, you've got skills, you've got a team, you've been doing it for a long time. And so I would say let's throw out these last 2 questions, and then we'll jump into the wrap up here. And so, what advice would you give agents who are currently working for sale by owners? First question. And then the second question is, what advice would you give agents who are not currently working for sale by owners?
So agents that aren't working for sale by owners, my advice would be, to start working them. Start working them, start getting out there. Because it's just another stream of business. Any new agent, I tell them, you can work your all your friends and family, but that's only going to go so far. You better go work some for sale by owners and get some other stuff rocking. Any agents that are working for sale by owners, just continue to do them. Call them. I always tell people it's not rocket science. You have to call them. You have to chat with them. If you feel like you're having some challenges with them, maybe. There's plenty of stuff on REDX with the dialogue. You can use theirs, or you could, you can even YouTube, and you can hear some other guys that are calling and put dialogue together that works for you. But you just got to keep calling them and being consistent with them. And, right now in our market right now, the Springs market's hot, and for sale by owners, some of them are selling by themselves, but there's still a handful of them that, still are being listed by realtors. And to be honest with you too, I don't know the percentage of realtors that actually work for sale by owners. So I think if you're able to learn the dialogue and, become good at that, and you can get out to them, you're going to be probably one of their top choices.
That's fantastic to hear, because it seems like if just, with diligence training and just some basic rapport building skills, at least in your area, in your market, it sounds like for sale by owners are an opportunity for a significant source of income, if not, a sole source of income for probably new agents starting off. And so for seasoned for sale by owner professionals, what do you think it is that they would like to know about what you're doing? What question do you think they'd like to ask? Or what motivation do you think they need to hear from you in order to become even more successful at what they're doing?
Yeah, I mean, I think
it could be related to campaigns, or it could be related to follow-up. Is it postcards?
Yeah.
Is it the order of operations? Because I think people who haven't started doing this, those types of things would be over their head. They just need to understand this is something they should be doing. But for people who are already doing it, what is it about maybe your process, marketing, campaigns, order of operations, even how you have any of the people on your staff kind of interact in the process of turning for sale by owner leads into listings?
Yeah, I think, I mean, when you mentioned follow-up, that kind of came into mind because, yeah, I mean, there are times, like I was saying earlier, that you're just not going to get them right away. There are going to be times where they're going to be like, hey, give me a few days or give me this weekend. And, of course, we all want to get the listing right off the first conversation, but there's plenty of times that you get the listing 7 days later because you're the guy that called them and, hey, how'd the open house go? Oh, not good. Shoot, Well, hey, let's do this. I don't mind. Let's chat more on, helping you out, So, and
yeah,
I mean, yeah.
Is there a number or like clues to indicate, cause you just really brought up two important things is one, hey, is there like a magic number 7 days later, or is that number usually tied to like you ask them a question about open houses or some sort of event that you get to follow up, and then they're kind of like, you're basically catching them at a disappointed moment where you can offer them a solution. Is that kind of more of the strategy, or is there just kind of a rote timing number, or both?
Yeah, no, yeah, I mean, yeah, I think you're right. I mean, it's, when you chat with them, I mean, and they mention, hey, this is what they're doing, you make a note, and then you tell them, hey, look, I'm going to follow up with you, and however, 4 days, 7 days, I mean, but I don't go past 7 days, that's for sure, because, I mean, even really, you might want to, I mean, even for me, maybe, do 4 days, 5 days, but yeah, I mean, because you're catching them maybe after, hey, they thought in their mind, hey, I'm going to get this home sold, and now they're like, crap, we didn't get this thing sold, and, okay, hey, oh, there's Josh, he's calling us, he called us and chatting with us, so.
Good time and Josh is probably what they call you, because I think I picked something up from you here in what you said, and it sounds like you want to ask questions during the rapport building and the on-site maybe first visit you have, or the second. I'm not quite sure where, but somewhere in there is you want to identify an event that is either going to either end in them feeling successful or disappointed. And unfortunately, people's reaction to things that are driven by pain are greater than those driven by pleasure. And so what you sound like what you're doing is you're trying to identify an objective or event that they're going to have in some near-term point with less than 7 days, and then just find out what that is and what their results are, and then call them afterwards and see how it went. And if it didn't go great, well, there's a great opportunity for you.
Right.
All right. That was a great little tip. Thank you so much for helping me understand and everyone else understand. And I know I said those were the last two questions before we wrap up, but there was one other important one I think that I missed, and I've been trying to think about what it was, and it just popped into my mind, which is about how the National Association of Realtors tends to talk about how people who sell their home sell it for X percentage less or a certain number of dollars less than when selling with an agent. And so related to that little genre, I feel like this could be a big nugget for anybody who's considering for sale by owners or currently working them on how to articulate it more clearly, because it's about value, and you kind of touched upon it a little bit about getting their price. And so what do you know and have you heard about with that statistic? And then I guess, how do you overcome it? And then also I would say legitimately demonstrate that value above and beyond what the homeowner is going to get. How do you play with that statistic, if at all?
Yeah, sorry, that stat again. What was it again? I'm sorry.
I don't know the exact number, and I'll go look it up and get a little bit clearer on it. But in general, there's a statistic by the National Association of Realtors, and it's for us as real estate professionals to look at and embody the fact that when someone goes to sell their home on their own without an agent, it tends to be a certain amount of money less than what they would have received if it was sold by an agent. And so, whether you speak to that specifically or you can kind of feel it resonates with you, how do you address the essence and sentiment of that with a homeowner?
Yeah, I guess I don't really, I guess to be honest with you, I don't sometimes even address that at all with the for sale by owner. I don't really throw that stat out with them. I kind of, basically what I tell them is, look, you're a for sale by owner, you're on the market, but you're undercover. There's a lot of buyers out there shopping, but they're shopping with a realtor, and what do realtors do? They pull up the multiple listing service, or they have buyers looking on their internet site, and then they call them, and they're out shopping, and they could be, driving all around you. So that stat, I don't really even throw at them. I just kind of let them know, hey, you guys are on the market, but there's a lot of activity going on, and you're missing out on it, and let's help you out. Let's get you out there, get exposure, and get this thing, moving for you. So, I kind of maybe give them the stat on, hey, there's 2,000 realtors in Colorado Springs, and each of them have an average of 5 to 7 buyers, and that's a lot of buyers, and so I kind of maybe do it that way, but I don't really give them the stat on, hey, you're gonna.
Okay. Yeah. That's what you're speaking to the sentiment of it, I think. I was just, if you knew it and you spoke to it directly, or you have your own way of addressing basically what is the same issue is what's the value of a realtor and why should I pay you a commission? Well, you working with me because, me and the other realtors out there are actively pushing buyers and showing buyers towards, homes that are available for sale, and just kind of like.
Yeah. And I guess that, that drives the price up, right? For sale by owners are, I know that stat. I can't remember exactly either. I know that there are times that, they say that, they lose money if they're not with a realtor. But, that probably has to do with, maybe.
I'm gonna do a little bit more research on that myself. And when I get the answer to that in a clear, competent way, I'll follow back up with you, and I'll let you know what I discovered, and it'll probably be included in a future recording down the road like this one.
Yeah, sounds good.
Yeah. All right, we're wrapping up. We're getting really, 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 really close. This is the last section we're in right now, and so I'd like to talk a little bit about your experience with REDX, because this whole call has not been about REDX per se. It's just been about the process of procuring listings from for sale by owners, and that over the last 10 years, I'm sure you've had your exposure to a number of different resources, tools, and services out there. And I'd like to know, and maybe the people at home who are either listening to this and have REDX and they want to know maybe more and better ways to get value out of the service they're already paying for, or for people who are just trying to make the decision right now to choose what's best for them. I figured it's better to come from you, not from me, on the experience that you've had in coming to the conclusion that you are using REDX. And so help me and help the other people at home understand, why REDX in comparison to other services and tools that you've had the opportunity to use, but now choose REDX over them.
Yeah, no, I love REDX. Just kind of give you maybe the Cliff Notes version. When I first started real estate, I just basically scrubbed the internet myself for sale by owners, meaning like Craigslist, other sites that maybe they could put them on. So, there was, I guess, for REDX when somebody told me about it.
It sounds very time consuming and frustrating.
Yeah.
By the way.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, exactly. So, but I didn't know it like any other, I didn't know that REDX existed. And then when somebody mentioned it, when I got it, it was, to me, it was like, oh, this is great. It saves me time every morning. You just log in and it populates all the new leads right in there. And, it's got, you can put your notes right in there, but yeah, I think it's a great system. And I think, if you're not using it, I don't know what other systems really there are out there. Once I grabbed onto it back in, I think 2008, I was like, well, this is it for FSBOs and expireds, and now they have pre-foreclosure leads. And if you want to get a property management company going, they have rental leads. I mean, so it's just that it just saves you tons of time. And if, the great thing is it's affordable. I mean, it's not you're not going to break the bank, and you can definitely. I mean, you get one listing or one closing, or it pretty much pays for it. So
I'm going to ask a selfish question right now. You mind?
Yeah.
How many times over a month does REDX pay for itself for how you use it?
Oh man, handful.
Is that 10 times, 20 times, 50 times, 2 times?
Yeah, probably, I mean, 10. Yeah, probably 10.
Great. All right. You've walked us down the path. You've allowed us to see inside your business, probably in a way that you didn't think we were going to get into today. But I'm really appreciative of the verbal visual tour that you've given us. And so I'm sure there's going to be people who get a chance to listen to this, and they're going to have questions of their own. And unfortunately, right now is not the time that we can really go into those questions. But in the future, Josh, would you be open to answering questions from other agents who might have some things that they'd like to ask you?
Yeah, you bet. Love to.
Okay. Fantastic. And of course, I'd love to give you a plug. So for your own business, for agents out there who'd like to know more about what you do, how you do it, and possibly send you referrals, is there something you'd like to share with agents out there who listen to this that would help them find you and help make the decision to choose you as a referral partner?
Yeah, no, I'd love to. Yeah, I mean, I give them my email, my phone number. I mean, we have our own brokerage out here in Colorado Springs. It's called Next Home Pikes Peak Realty. Of course, my name is Josh Roy. You call me at 719.
You specialize in any sort of properties, and so if someone's thinking I need someone in that area, you'd be the person to go to.
We do it all. We do it all. We're not picky. I mean, yeah. I mean, like I tell agents. I mean, I don't. I'll help anyone out. I mean, so yeah. I mean, yeah. If anyone that's moving to Colorado Springs or close to it, we'd love to help them.
That's fantastic. Well, Josh, I appreciate you spending, a little bit more than the hour we had budgeted. And so I hope the extra time didn't take too much away from the rest of your day, but I know it sure gave me and the people listening a whole lot more than just the 20 minutes of time and value. So thank you so much for taking this time and spending it with us. And I do look forward to finding and getting more questions from those out there and help provide a way to connect you with them. And obviously increase your profile and status in the real estate community, the REDX community, and of course, if referrals can come your way from this, I would love to hear that too.
Yeah, no, thank you for having me.